I'm Johan Adjovi, so I'm a consultant. I'm a partner with the global management consulting firm Analysis Mason. I've been in the industry for about 23 years now. And when I first started my career, so more than 2 decades ago, the biggest concern back then was about coverage and adoption of technologies, right? So it was about putting a mobile handset in the hands of every adult individual. It was about getting broadband in every homes, right? Today, the conversation has shifted dramatically. It's no longer about coverage adoption because connectivity is pretty much everywhere. Or at least, everywhere enough, let's say. So now the question is about how do we make this more sustainable? And by sustainable, it's not only about environmental sustainability, i.e. basically reducing energy consumption, using greener, more renewable energy, reducing the greenhouse gas emission when the traffic is actually increasing. But it's also about commercial sustainability, about ensuring that the business model and the commercial models are basically working towards making networks more intelligent, more adaptive, so that they can sustain the state of time in order for investment to thrive. And it's also about technological sustainability. Because with all these new technologies that keep on coming, like AI, artificial intelligence, like 6G, which is on the horizon, like cloud, software-defined networks. So we want basically networks to be more intelligent, more adaptive, more adaptable, so that they don't need to be rebuilt over and over and over again. So now, Middle East sits at crossroads because we have, in our region, very ambitious national digital agendas, amazing coverage and availability of 5G and fiber, and also, more recently, the ambition for this region to also be at the forefront of artificial intelligence. So this all pushes us for networks to be greener, smarter, and more resilient. Over the next decade, my bet is that networks, it will not be about making networks faster, but it will actually be about making networks better. Better in a more intelligent, more sustainable, and better way. So that's what we'll actually explore in our discussion now, and with questions such as, how can the region balance explosive digital growth with sustainability? How can AI make networks more adaptive, more energy efficient? And what are operators doing to actually revisit the architecture with software-defined concept, AI, and automation? So I would now like to invite my set of excellent panelists to the stage, now that the stage is nearly there. To start with, Sohail Kadir, the CEO at Zain Omantel International. Sohail. Nabil Bakouche, Group Chief Carrier and Wholesale Officer at EN. Yes. Let's go. Yes, that's the one. Enrico Bagnasco, CEO and Managing Director at Sparkle. Veer Passy, Group CEO at Calam Carrier Solutions. Raju Vegesna, Chairman and Managing Director at CFI Technologies. And finally, Bevan Slattery, co-founder at Soda. Great. Okay, so I gave this little introduction. So Suhail, I'd like to give you an opportunity to maybe either react a little bit to that, or maybe describe from your perspective how the region is currently positioned to build more intelligent and sustainable networks.
Thank you, Johan. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to CCCM 2025 in Oman, Muscat. And thank you for everyone. And special thanks to the panel to be here in Oman on a very short notice, I have to say. Johan, if we look at our region, I think from last 2 decades, I think as an operator, we have been investing in networks for our own requirement. But now it's changed. We are no more building networks for our own requirement. We are building networks for the transformation, digital transformation that is coming. So if you look at what happened in 2020 in this region, we were ready with our 5G networks. We had fiber that served what happened during 2025. This region was never working from home, remote working kind of thing. And over a period of less than, I would say, a month, everyone in this region was ready to serve the requirement of their customers sitting at home, doing the office work. And it was a big change for all of us. Moving to 2025, I would say, as a region, we are doing a lot. I think we are not building networks for ourselves. We are building networks for the nation. Oman Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia Vision 2030, Oman Vision 2040, UAE Vision 2031. This is what we are working on. And we are there, already there. Now, what is required today in the region, networks are there. We are investing in artificial intelligence, data centers. Yesterday, myself and Bevan was discussing about, receiving these chips, building data centers. But one thing that is missing in the region today, and I think it's important to highlight over here, is the cross-border connectivities. Is the connectivity and the collaboration cross-border within the region. We all are ready. We all have the networks. We all have the data centers and everything. But this is something that is missing. And now we have started working on that as well. So down, I would say 2026, 2027, all of us are connected to each other and providing services across the region to each other. Thank you.
Thanks, Suhail. Very interesting perspective. I'd like to complement that maybe with the perspective of your perspective, Nabil, from Ian's perspective. What do you see as some of the driving forces towards these future networks? Is it about consumer demand? Is it about government pushing for that? Is it about private investment or others?
So first of all, assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone. And thanks for the organizer for inviting me and the entire team. And thanks, Suhail, for the wonderful setup as well here in beautiful Muscat. So to complement what Suhail mentioned, I think you look at the Middle East. The Middle East is really boiling. It's boiling when it comes to investment. It's boiling when it comes to capital that is poured, let's say, in all the networks. When you look at the level of investment that the GCC or the Middle East in general are putting every year, it's more than $15 billion of investment put in those networks. You look at some reports also that by 2027, let's say the Middle East market will hit $75 billion. That's pretty big. And we were talking about, obviously, the data centers. The MENA data center investment pool will also hit 20 billion by 2030, $20 billion. So that's those kind of figures that are pretty appealing. And for companies like eend, obviously, we are trying to play a role. I also agree with Suhail when it comes to partnerships. I think we cannot manage, let's say, this entire infrastructure rollout on a standalone basis. We need partners from the region and partners outside of the region. You look at UAE, you look at Saudi, you look at all the GCC countries are investing massive capital in when it comes to AI. And obviously, UAE playing a pivotal role when it comes to AI. We'll see more and more investments on the domestic infrastructure. We'll see more and more also investments in the region, but also beyond, trying to link, obviously, Asia to Europe via countries like UAE, like Oman, and like other countries from the GCC. So I think we are here to support, let's say, the infrastructure. We need partners, that's for sure. And when you look at the recent cuts that happened, obviously, in the Red Sea, I'm talking always about partnership, partnership, partnership. I mean, we really see partners when we are facing this kind of outages. And obviously, I would like really also to thank the entire region, including obviously Zoe and Suhail was very, very important in the way the regional players supported, let's say, the entire ecosystem in bringing back, let's say, this kind of connectivity for the region. And not just regional players were impacted, but also hyperscalers were impacted. And that's where, obviously, we join our forces, we bring, let's say, this collaboration into play. That's where we see really this kind of driving force from the Middle East and GCC players. So I think, yeah, the future is pretty interesting, and the UAE end will play also a pivotal role in this.
Thanks. And I hear you on the point on AI. And I think that's a good segue, I guess, into, let's talk a bit more about AI, right? So UAE in particular has really been, particularly proactive and particularly ambitious with, the signing with some of the US, with the Stargate project. So how is eend specifically contributing to enabling this AI infrastructure and the UAE's vision towards AI inside and outside the country?
I mean, there's no secret. I mean, with the last Trump visit in the region, after Saudi, Qatar, and UAE, a lot of investments have been announced, $1.4 trillion of investment with the US. Obviously, some of it will be related to technology, and some of it will be related to AI. And I think the UAE will play also, as I said, a pivotal role in developing, let's say, AI capabilities in the region, but also beyond. And from our perspective, it's not just building, let's say, data centers, and you have also seen the news, the 5 gigawatt, let's say, data center that will be built in the UAE, 200 megawatt next year already as phase one. From an eend point of view, obviously, we are the infrastructure, the international infrastructure arm of the country. So we'll have to build, let's say, the infrastructure. We'll have to invest in subsea cables. We'll have to link, obviously, regions, Asia with the Middle East, with Africa, with Europe. And obviously, from an AI capabilities, we'll have to also link all the AI hubs among each other. And I think eend will play a role in this, along with partners like, obviously, Zoe and our Saudi partners and our Qatari partners and others. So interesting times, I would say. We are not talking about implementing 100 gigs of capacity. We are talking about teras and hundreds of teras that will be implemented in the next 3 to 5 years. And we are building the networks of the future. So we are engaged in 8 to 10 different projects, subsea cable, terrestrial, but also when we speak about terrestrial is bringing this diversity into play. We all know what is happening in the Red Sea. I mentioned the 4 or 5 cable cuts that happened recently. So we need to, with our partners in the region, make sure that we build this diversification in order to hit the Med Sea. And obviously, we have Enrico also supporting the entire ecosystem with Sparkle in building this ecosystem. So routes through Saudi, routes through Iraq and Syria and Turkey and so on will have to be built, if not yet done. And I think we'll see this kind of diversification also through Egypt happening. And I think the more we diversify our networks, the better, and always in this mindset of building low latency routes. And I think that's what we're all doing as we speak. An interesting time for sure.
Yes. I'd like to bring you in, Via, to also share your perspective in a multi-country, multi-partner environment of how do you develop the networks for AI? How do you enable AI also inside your network with all the automation that it can enable in terms of as well as, software-defined networks? So how do you do it? Because you guys, at Calam have been, some of the players at the forefront of virtualization, automation, more intelligent networks. So tell us more.
Thank you, Johan. Again, firstly, thank you, Amantal, Zoe, for this invitation. I'm glad to see GCCM becoming a wonderful event, bringing brilliant minds together, and always love the Omani hospitality and touch to it. Thank you. Look, building on what Sohail and Nabil mentioned, what's a problem statement at this point of time? Middle East is that our infrastructure landscape across the region is fragmented. Our connectivity, if you have to stitch a connectivity from Middle East / GCC to Europe or Asia, or even Middle East for that matter, we are talking about the network or solution traversing over multiple networks and operators in the region. So a customer at the end up having an experience which is to deal with multiple operators as part of a single solution. Now, we have been a little, over the last couple of years, we have invested into network as a service platform. And I see that over the coming years, network, NaaS will probably do to connectivity what cloud did to compute. We're looking at a programmable network, a network which is elastic, which can be owned by the customers at the end. Now, for us to resolve this particular challenge in the near term, as we see that a lot of investment is coming in cable systems, we are also diversifying, as Nabil mentioned, from submarine cable systems to terrestrial cable systems. But also what's most important is for us to start doing interoperability. We also need to start having networks which are software defined. We should be able to have programmable networks, which can only happen if we start doing SDN interconnects between all of us, which will allow us to create a virtual fabric across the region where whether an enterprise or a hyperscaler or a carrier want to connect from a region to Europe or within the region, they are able to do through a single interface, which is a virtual interface. So I think I see that in the near term, the winners would be the ones who are able to program the existing infrastructure, which is a combination of multiple operators in the region. If you're able to program that particular network, I think we are bringing for the enterprises and the carriers a solution which is cloud native. Because when I look at the end customers these days, they want to look at connectivity at the same parlance as a cloud native infrastructure. They want to see the same experience as an application, right? That's what the end customers want. They should be able to control the network the way they want and how the applications are running on top of it. And it is only possible if we would start doing programmable networks, start doing SDN interconnects. I think there is a lot of progress in this particular space. As Nabil mentioned, we are at this point of time creating restoration as a service using our SDN platform to be able to offer Northern route, which is a route which transits towards Iraq and Turkey, so that if there are any issues in the submarine cable, we can transverse the network towards terrestrial path on a real-time basis. On the enterprise side, some of the interesting use cases we have on NaaS is how we are able to position Cloud Connect for the enterprises through a single platform. So we launched our Click platform a year and a half base, which is a 360-degree experience for our carriers and enterprises, their entire journey, whether it is ordering through CPQs or provisioning through SDN platform or billing or ticketing. We have also created AI insights on top of it. Again, I think we need, as an operator, to think our customers, irrespective whether they are carriers or enterprises or hyperscalers, their need is a platform which is an ecosystem where, irrespective of what all networks are behind the scene, they want to see a cohesive network. When they look at their solution, they would like to visualize a solution which is end-to-end, which is real-time programmable, which is they can control it, which they can monitor it, which they can build their AI platform to it. I think that's where the virtualizations is going to help.
Excellent. I think that ties quite well, indeed, as you mentioned, with what Nabil and Sohail mentioned. And I agree that having this technical solution is important. But what about the commercial models? Do they exist actually? Because if you have a platform, are you able to kind of also rely on commercial interworking between operators that could actually make something work?
Yeah. Look, I mean, as a business model for Kalam, we've always been partnership driven. We are asset light. We drive on our relationship with our partners. As I mentioned to you, that I feel that the winners would be the one who are able to orchestrate the network, not necessarily build the network, right? We ourselves have pivoted our investment over the past few years from infrastructure-centric to intelligence-centric, meaning we are building, again, orchestration layers, analytics, interconnect with partners. And this allows us to have a nice balance between how we see, you mentioned sustainability earlier, how we sustainability of our financial investments, which are economical and which are able to have less carbon footprints because we are driven on the investment or partners. But the trick lies here is more and more collaboration amongst the partners, making our networks a single ecosystem for our end customers.
Excellent, thanks. So, Enrico, let's shift a little bit the perspective towards your global network. So, how do you see that happening? How do you see this integration of automation, AI, interworking, single platform? How do you see it for yourself?
Before answering, let me thank Sohail for this invitation, and it's my first time here, and I'm really, happy to be here. So, thank you for this invitation. Sparkle operates in 40 countries worldwide. So, anywhere from, let's say, Singapore to Americas, and few are the countries we do not serve. First of all, everywhere we build infrastructure today, we see that route diversity is one of the most requested feature. So building infrastructure, building a submarine cable is no longer a matter of more capacity, which is always there, of course. It's more a matter now of route diversity and latency, okay? So when you plan a new system, when we plan a new system, as an example, we take these two requirements top of the list, more than anything else, okay? Second, none of us can build the whole system by itself. We can build some regional segments, by ourselves, but the end-to-end game is a combination of the efforts we have. And this is, I think, very peculiar of our industry, because at the end, the world network is one network, as resulting as a combination of many segments of single ownership or multiple ownership. But the network is becoming one, and it's even more and more becoming one, because once the AI mega data centers will be deployed, will serve the whole world, will not serve one region. And especially if you think of the AI requirements for the learning phase, this will actually be serving the whole world. Maybe the inference phase will be more regional or distributed, but the learning phase will be more centralized and across different regions. So these are the three things that I can point out with my worldwide view: root diversity, low latency, and collaboration to build one network, putting together our assets.
And specifically thinking about this software-defined philosophy of, kind of orchestrating network, do you see that having an important role as well?
It does. The network as a service concept that has been well elaborated by Amplify and discussed in many places and adopted, I think is key. Is key to serve the end customer. It's key to decouple the physical infrastructure from the service, the connectivity service. And again, in this role, AI will be an essential component to optimize the configuration, to automate the configuration, to adjust the configuration in case of faults or overloads or anything. So the level of intelligence we are putting in our network is ever increasing. However, as I always say, without infrastructure, nothing works. So at some point, you have to build a physical stuff landing somewhere. And then on top of it, you can play many other things.
Yeah, infrastructure first, and then, the layer on top. Okay, now I'd like to bring an Indian perspective. So, Raju, can you maybe tell us a bit more about what CFI technology does and how you guys have built a digital infrastructure for enterprise using some of the concepts we've talked about?
So thank you, everyone. Good morning. And thank you for Sohail Bhai for inviting me and all other my friends and brothers. So when it comes to India, it's a scale. Scale is the most important. Second is most cost effective. So how do we deliver these technologies more cost effective? That is a challenge. So living 40 plus years in US, started 3 startups in Silicon Valley. I took this challenge, how do we make India to catch up? So maybe that's a crazy idea. But the way I look at it is the way India is growing. As you can see the GDP growth and the ambition of our Prime Minister and the technology leaders. There's not even a dull moment how India is growing. So as my colleagues mentioned, how the technology is growing, easy to use. At the end of the day, what we are talking about, software, it's not anymore NNIs. How do you integrate APIs? So the way we focused at CFI, I'm keeping India with 1.4 billion people, and every year adding 25 million people above purchasing power. I don't say poverty level, purchasing level. That adds one more country. So the challenge I have is how do I can grow in India? That is the way we said partners are very important. Either coming to India or going out of India. So that's the reason we focused mostly India. and we are building SIFI technologies into 3 segments. One is the data centers, and we are one of the oldest we are the primary first data center provider in India, did tier 3 data center 25 years back, and we substantially grown 3 generations, and we host major hyperscalers, OTT players, and most of the banks in India are hosted with us. To complement that, we also build an excellent enterprise network, starting from subsea cable. We don't invest in subsea cable much, but we cracked open CLS policy about 12 years back in Mumbai. Now we are building 2 more subsea cable systems in Chennai and Vizag. Today we have probably about 30 pairs of cable coming to India through our cable landing systems. And we are planning to deploy in the next 2 to 3 years close to 100 pairs, because now subsea cables coming with 16 pairs or 24 pairs. And to complement that, now AI. So we are the first one certified by NVIDIA DGX in India to host 130 kilowatt per rack, and we are stretching up to 300 kilowatt per rack substantially. And India has a plenty of power and renewable energy. So when it comes to considering to the data centers, I consider 3 important things. One is cost to build, very substantial low in India, and power is reasonably inexpensive. And the people to operate, knowledge, IT, how you transform the IT people from having that kind of a manpower, transform to the AI. For me, AI is an evolution technology. It's not a revolution. It's the next step. What is we are doing, the way the humans are getting intelligent, that is the way I look at it, how the AI is growing. So that way India is very capable of doing all these 3 things. And having the network connecting rest of the globe is very important when you are talking. It's not only for India, it's going to serve globally. What I call is AI data refineries. What we're doing is we are building AI data refineries in Mumbai, in Chennai, and we have one in Noida, and one we have in Vizag. So these are refineries capable of scaling up to 1 gigawatt. So our ambition is, grow with the growth of the rest of the world, and at the same time, scaling possible, but second is cost effective. Cost effective is very, very important. And as the AI, it's not, which is pioneered by NVIDIA and AMD, and substantially, lot of the startups coming in Bay Area, I think ultimately it's going to be more cost effective and it's easy to use. Ultimately, it has to be used, the technology, for the people. To complement our network and data centers, we have our own cloud platform, private cloud, certified by Government of India in 2012. And also we are AI mission, which is driven by the Prime Minister Modi's organization. We are also certified by AI mission for India. And we are growing, and security practice, network practice, what is my colleagues mentioned. We are substantially making software-driven networks, software-driven solutions. AI is going to play very much important role. A country like India also is a challenge because we are a lot of manpower. Is it AI is going to take the jobs? In my mind, AI is not going to take the jobs. I think it's going to be help the people to go to the next level. How internet helped to people to the next level. AI also is going to help to the next level of the people. That's what my belief. Thank you.
Thank you. Bevan, I'd like to also now, take your perspective. So maybe can you tell us a bit about, Subco and how you're playing in this sustainable, intelligent infrastructure building?
Yeah, so I've been around the industry for nearly the best part of 30 years. So I think I've covered just about everything these days. So first business, we're an ISP providing retail services. Second business was a fibre infrastructure company. in the metro environment, and we built our first subsea system, Sydney Guam. Sold that in 2010. A month later, I started a data centre business called XTC. So we built what was Australia's largest data centre network across Australia. Started a software-defined network called Megaport, which is the world's largest software-defined network. We're in 1,000 data centres in about 27 countries, and we've got about 1,500 cloud on-ramps around the world. Then did sub-partners, built the Sydney, Perth, Singapore cable, brought in Google and Telstra and a few people like that. What else did I do? So basically now I'm kind of doing Superloop, forget about that, and so now I'm doing Subco. So my kind of focus is very much on building submarine cables, very focused on problems I can see happening in the world. I saw problems in South China Sea being a real issue. I could see problems potentially in Malacca Strait and the Sunda Strait. So my simple thesis is building neutral infrastructure on a subsea basis. So we're also building Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth subsea as well at the moment. That'll be finished in March. So basically, yeah, we built the Oman Australia cable, finished that in 23. And our real vision for that was every single cable in the world, subsea, that goes from Europe to Singapore or to Asia, goes through the Red Sea, went through the Malacca Strait. And if you had a problem in the Red Sea, you've got a challenge. If there was a similar problem in Malacca Strait, every single digital cable, submarine cable connects that. Very big problem. The industry is now awake to that, right? So that's very key. I think when I'm looking at the future, and I think specifically about Middle East, it was a bit of a bold move to build into Oman. Sahel and the team at Omantel did a fantastic job. I was either going to build to Djibouti or Oman. I saw the stability of Oman and the potential in Oman and the Middle East and Gulf region as being, that's the place I want to land. I can commit to 25 years, whereas I wasn't quite confident in the other place. So fortunately that worked out. But if I look forward, and my view and perspective, having been around the industry so much, I've spent a lot of time with NVIDIA, even in the last 2 weeks, understanding the metrics between chips, megawatts, terabits. And the thing I would say is that I'm excited for the Middle East, but I'm also very anxious for the Middle East. And what I mean by that is the opportunity in front of the Middle East is hands down once in a generation opportunity to really capitalise on what's going on. You've got amazing access to energy, whether it's gas, renewable, investments in battery. You've got the money to build the infrastructure for this. You've got the lack of sometimes the Western rubbish about building infrastructure, building linear infrastructure in Australia like cables and pipelines. Oh, shoot me. But Middle East, you have a different way of government or a different way of leadership that you understand what's very important. So I'm very excited for that. The potential's huge. Chips are going to be big. The US is trying to support this. The reason I'm anxious is this once-in-a-generation opportunity could get squandered if the connectivity piece is not solved. You have to work together as a region, UAE, Oman, Saudi, Syria, Jordan, to make sure this analogy, we have to be the safe, secure, digital economic corridor to get from India and Asia into the Middle East, and more importantly, the tokens that you're going to generate in this region into Asia, into Europe, you're actually going to be producing something quite amazing. If there's a tax on that, so the example being if I flew Emirates, Etihad, I land in Dubai, my bag just magically goes through to Europe if that's my destination, but I land in the hub. What I don't want to do is land in Oman and then have to catch the plane to Saudi, unpack my bags, get inspected, called interception, fly into Jordan, unpack my bags, get my bags inspected, fly into Israel or Egypt, get my bags inspected, and then fly to my destination. The success of the region, the reason I'm so anxious, is I just really want the Middle Eastern countries to get together and provide that frictionless service from end to end. It used to be about how do we get through the Middle East and out. The reason I'm excited is because I think for the first time in a long time, it's actually the tokens that you're going to generate with the AI capability you can generate within country that needs to get out. You will be exporting tokens for the AI world, and you just have to make sure that that experience to do that is frictionless, because the time and the actual cost to do that will be added on the calculation of the cost to generate and receive a token. So I really, my eyes are open for this region. I'm telling you, you've got nearly every ingredient to be probably the most successful region in the world in this space. I just want to support you guys in making sure you make the best of it.
Excellent, thanks. That's a very interesting statement. So Suhail, I mean, any reaction to that in terms of, in particular, all these challenges about, you know, cross-border connectivity, the need for partnership, or maybe if you want also to react to some of the other things that have been said about the importance of automation, and then we move towards, you know, sustainability.
Before I answer your question, Bevan, if your bag is inspected that many times, you might not get anything in that bag. So, and that's true. What Bevan is saying, if we don't have a seamless connectivity from Indian Ocean into Mediterranean through Middle East, things will not work. Now, to answer your question, I would like to give you an example of Zain Omantel International, because most of you know that Omantel as a wholesale operator operated for like 17, 18 years, invested in around 17 submarine cables that landed in Oman. We have today 19 submarine cables landed in Oman. Ooredoo has landed 2 cable systems as well. And almost 10 more submarine cable systems will be coming into Oman. So Oman is becoming a connectivity or transport hub. But without Oman going through seamless into the Mediterranean, it will not work. And this is where a platform called Zain Omantel International was established by Omantel and Zain Group. Whereas what we are doing is we are not duplicating the infrastructure. We are not duplicating the investment in either submarine or terrestrial or data centers or AI or anything. What we are doing is we have combined all our assets. We have combined all our assets, and we're using those assets many times. So instead of duplicating it. So obviously, as Omantel has its own network and deploying a new network as well in Oman. In Saudi Arabia, we have Zain KSA, who is deploying their own network, landing cables over there. In Jordan, we have Zain Jordan. So it's a connectivity that is a seamless connectivity that can be provided by the group, let's say Omantel Group. Obviously, we are bringing in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Iraq as well. And then on the Africa side, we have Sudan and South Sudan that are connected to each other. There are projects that we are doing. As I said, we are combining our assets. So we are doing one cable system between Saudi Arabia to Egypt, high fiber pair connectivity into Egypt that is landing from Saudi Arabia into Sharm el-Sheikh, and then from Sharm el-Sheikh going into all the way to Port Said, to Mediterranean. Obviously, we have a network in Jordan where we are now activating ducts and fibers to connect from Zain Jordan network into Zain Saudi Arabia network, into Omantel network, into Kuwait network, and more importantly, Iraq as well. As Veer very rightly said, Iraq is also an important corridor that we are exploring. We have an ISP, we have a mobile license over there, so we are building a network that will be providing connectivity through the Middle East, through Iraq, into Europe or Turkey, connecting. We already have cable systems connecting Oman into Iran, and then from Iran we are going to Europe through Azerbaijan, Russia, and then Ukraine towards Europe. But because of the situation in that region, we have a situation in this region as well. And I think highlighted by Nabil, we have 6 cable cuts, not 5. Cables are down since last 2 months. Last time we were down for 6 months. This is now 2 months. Are we working on it? Yes, we all are working to get those cable repaired, but it's a geopolitical situation. So most of us now are avoiding this. And this is where we are bringing in this cross-border connectivity. in the Middle East. So this is very important. The platform that we are providing is not only a seamless connectivity, but it is energy efficient. It is automated. We are using analytics for the routing. So everything is automated. So it's not only automation, but it's sustainability as well, because that's very, very important nowadays. I think sustainability, if we look at from 5 years down a year ago, sustainability was more of a corporate responsibility. But now, within our region, sustainability has reached to a level where it is becoming a major principle in the network design, and especially when it comes to data centers. So this is what we are doing. We are deploying few data centers, around 8 data centers in the region as Zoe, obviously working with our opcos in every country. And we have started deploying some data centers. Obviously, we have a joint venture with Equinix, the largest data center company in the world. Very successful data centers deployment in Barka, in Muscat, as well as in Salalah. And I can see the team sitting over here who have sold the data center before it was even ready for service. So amazing job done. What we are doing next is building networks, right? Networks are the important bit in this whole discussion, because as Bevan rightly said, I think we are blessed with this in this region that the governments, and from the leadership level, not only the government level, but the leadership level in this region are supporting. They understand the networks, they understand the technology transformation, they understand what's coming, and they're supporting the idea. Be it in Oman or in Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or in UAE, or in Qatar, or in Bahrain, or in Kuwait. Everywhere you will see and you will find those press releases where the leadership of the country is involved in it. And they are the one who is bringing and advocating for the international OTT players. Our friends like Enrico, Bevan, and Raju Saab to come into our region and invest. And this is what we are seeing now. And I think what we will see in the next 5 years is going to change. What Bevan says, I fully agree with Bevan. It is a time to make it or break it. People are betting on our region, but if we do not have a seamless connectivity, that will actually break the whole thing. So this is one thing that now we are working together, working with Etisalat, working with Zen in Saudi Arabia, with STC, with Mobily, with all our partners to create that seamless connectivity through the region. And once it's done, believe me, then there is no more, I would say, excuses for anyone coming into Middle East. One thing I believe in, that every kilometer that we shared with each other, be it cross-border or be it within the country, that's actually sustainability. We are not duplicating the investments. The regulator in Oman, they issued a direction almost 8 years ago with Oman broadband coming into the play. The directions was no duplication of investment, share the networks. Although the regulator is not here, so I'm not pleasing them. He's gone. But it's true. Thank you.
Thanks, Sahil. So Via, I think what we talked about, as you guys would have, we've kind of moved to the theme of sustainability part of the discussion. How is sustainability embodied in Kalam's approach to deploying infrastructure, but also that layer, and then operating it on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think the foundation, as I mentioned earlier, for us, given our business model is partnership-driven and asset-light, so we are inherently, our business model is very sustainable because we rely a lot on the infrastructure of our partners. We focus on creating a software-defined layer on top of the infrastructure which we have through our partners, so that we are able to stitch the networks seamlessly, irrespective of which operator it is across the region. We always keep our customer in mind in terms of how do we make sure that our customer, when it comes to our ecosystem, he feels a unified network all across. And as we continue to invest more on, again, software-defined layer and orchestrations allows us to invest in more capacity than on the carbon footprints. For us, I think partnership is the biggest sustainability model, right, in the region. Again, coming back to Sohail Saab, as I was mentioning, that in these times when we are looking at creating diversity in the region to support huge AI investments which are coming in, and as we even also mentioned that, we have an option to tokenize huge amount of these investments either as a transit or even for exporting. We as Kalam are also investing into diversified routes. We were the first operator to get a transit license in Iraq last year, allow us to extend our terrestrial network from GCC all the way towards Europe. We have the only terrestrial cable which goes from UAE all the way to Frankfurt. Again, it's an OPG-based network. We have been making sure that most of this investment is partnership-driven. We are, again, partnering with operators in Iraq as well as in Turkey to make sure that we give, again, a end-to-end seamless alternate to our carriers and enterprises and hyperscalers to transit this traffic. Being a Saudi operator, now we are a licensed operator in Saudi, we're also building on Saudi transit so that we can also traverse our traffic from Saudi towards Jordan and again using the Mediterranean towards north. I think from our perspective, for us as partners to deliver a seamless experience for our customers is also to make sure how do we resolve in-country reach. So again, I keep bringing to the point, our end customers want to connect from point A, which could be a data center, or it could be an enterprise office, right? Now, from there to all the way towards Europe or within Middle East. While our CLS to CLS, we are still able to do it very efficiently because we own that infra, or between us and our partners. But when it comes to in-country, in the region, again, that's where we currently we have to make that business model more efficient, more automated, which will allow us to, again, meet the customers end-to-end. They do not need to see a fragmented network because at the end, whether it is provisioning, whether it is maintenance, whether it is, ticket resolutions, we see that we are not able to give a seamless experience to our customer. He end up seeing that we are partnered with X number of operators in between our challenges, even to find out which portion of the network an issue lies. The amount of time we take is not easy. Now, so I think one is, as we continue to emphasize that we need to collaborate more and more, even in-country cross-connects, make them, again, as early we should be able to make them SDN-based, which will allow us to make these circuits provisioned online, real-time. These can be upgraded, downgraded, restored on a real-time basis. It will allow us to leverage different assets on a single ecosystem, right? That's the end objective. I think it will allow us to make ourselves more sustainable in the sense that, as Sohail was saying, that within the country, we are all cooperating with each other and sharing our infrastructure. The same thought process has to go across the region. We should be able to create a unified digital fabric for the carriers across Middle East, Europe, and Asia. So they see Middle East as a seamless corridor, irrespective of what is the underlay. So the overlay has to be a seamless corridor. I think that will allow us to create a sustainable business model.
Thank you.
I think just one comment, because we were talking about partnership. But partnership also, it's obviously among ourselves here in the region as telcos, but it's also the entire ecosystem. And obviously, when we build networks, when we build subsea cables, the subsea cable supply chain is also a challenge. And I think this is a very critical element whereby we need to partner also with the submarine cable, let's say, manufacturer, because today, building a cable, any cable, will take anywhere between 3 to 5 years. And in a world where AI is happening, It's not around the corner. It's happening as we speak. And we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of teras of capacity that needs to be built. I think we need also to find a way, a compromise, I would say, with the subsea cable, let's say, supply chain. And there are not that many, unfortunately. So I think as a telco, we will have to join our forces as well. And we started already with Enrico within the GLF, the Global Leaders Forum, to address that point, that challenge. But it's a real challenge. So we will have to address that also pretty quickly as industry.
Yeah, and then
It could very quickly become the digital equivalent of toilet paper during COVID.
sorry, digital
It could very
equivalent?
quickly become the digital equivalent of trying to get toilet paper during COVID. You know, all it takes is a very small change in demand, and the supply is completely gone, and then you're waiting in queue.
And Sohaila, I remember your call for for action about the vessels, right? So because there were not enough vessels to actually fix the submarine cable. Has this changed?
No, this has not changed. The only addition that happened in Orange Marine was one ship, and they retired one. So we still have 35 ships. We still have 35 ships, all of them on average 28-year age. So that, I think that's also a time bomb that we are setting, not only, and I agree with Nabil that today, we are part of AE2, we are part of EMA cable, we are part of few other new consortium cables. Any vendor you're talking about, RFS can be 31, 30, 32. We are in 2025. But yes, that maintenance thing is also, in our region, we have one company, eMarine, doing the job. But if you look at globally, 35 ships cannot manage all these submarine cable systems.
Yeah. So Enrico, what's your perspective on the ABC, on some of these issues, as well as maybe if you can share how, zooming out, what's your perspective on how this region is doing from a environmental sustainability perspective, and maybe share an anecdote or two on some of the revenue-generating opportunities of sustainability?
I have many things to say because, of course, the discussion is touching the key points. Let me select some. First of all, going back to route diversity, I think this region, Middle East region, is particularly critical regarding route diversity. We've known that. The Red Sea issues are making this visible every day. And the cable cuts is just one of the many examples on how things are no longer as they used to be. So an alternative is necessary. Unfortunately, the geography is what it is. So the alternatives is clear. Maybe have a better connectivity from the Gulf region to Mediterranean. Okay. Now, and this is where all the discussions about the seamless integration. Now, I want to speak about, again, physical infrastructure, because all the discussions about digital metrics and seamless connectivity on a circuit level is fine. But if you want to transpose this into the physical infrastructure layer, then the key issue for sustainability is cost. Because infrastructure that is available to design new routes, fiber infrastructure, probably is available today. But if you look at the cost price you get, is just not sustainable. What I mean is that new routes and new physical connectivity will have to combine more and more submarine and terrestrial networks, so hybrid physical connectivity. But the end-to-end price point of this infrastructure must remain compatible with the market. And by definition, the submarine cable has the better price-performance ratio. So even the terrestrial network, the terrestrial segments of these end-to-end hybrid network must match the pricing point of submarine. Otherwise, the business will not make it. On the constraints we get both from the manufacturing and the marine operation is a very clear point. As Nabil said, as the board of the GLF just launched an initiative, we had a first meeting with, we have invited all the key stakeholders of manufacturing and marine operation in London 2 weeks ago. It was a very open conversation. More will come. Anyone willing to join, please go to the GLF forum and find what it's all about. And it was interesting because it was the first meeting where a good number of operators and a good number of manufacturers and marine operation were all in the same room discussing this. So not one-to-one or regional issues, but more a global issue. So everybody welcomed that as a good way of finding all possible flexibility and investments to increase. Because at the end of the story, we need to increase manufacturing capacity. We need to increase marine operation capacity. That's the simple statement. I understand that building a new manufacturing plant is a heavy investment. But if you never do it, if you don't do it now, which is probably the best timing, to scale up, also in the manufacturing operation, there will not be. Now, on new, let's say, services we may need to address, and I'm going back to AI as generating requirements for us. We see, first of all, for the training data centers, the data center used to train the LLMs, probably the need of very large volume of data, but not so many requirements in terms of latency. For the data center where the inference is played, where the responses and the generation of the responses, there probably the volume of data is less, but latency becomes key, okay, for the inference part. What is going to be interesting is to study the metrics, the data distribution metrics, because no one single data center will be able to hold all the data to play all the inference related to AI. So in any case, the algorithms will need to go and fetch data somewhere. So the first indications, the first understanding on how this data distribution metrics will become and will evolve over time, this will actually redesign the topology of the network.
Okay, but maybe can you also tell us one example of where sustainability ended up generating revenue for you guys?
We had, strictly speaking, on sustainability, which is indeed part of our agenda, not just as a flashy point, but as a substance. We had a very interesting initiative last year, where we finally made up our mind and engaged with a key partner to recover unused submarine cables from the bottom of the sea. And the business model was very interesting because this company is have been working with us to go through our inventory, identify cables. Let me say the older the better, because the best would be the coaxial cable full of copper, okay? So tons of copper hidden in the bottom of the sea. But also they are using, they're able to recycle not just the metals, but also recycle the plastics in some case. Interesting, and we know that, the quality of the material that we use for submarine cable is very high quality, so they managed to do a very high level of recycling. So at the end of the game, we made some profits in reselling the assets they take the burden to go and collect them from the bottom of the sea, recycle the material, and resell the material. It's clear is an interesting topic. I invite whole of the industry to take care of that. It's not just good for the planet, it's good for the budget.
Indeed, an interesting, anecdote of how, yes, you can make a little bit of money out of just doing the right thing of recovering an asset in the bottom of the ocean instead of laying it unused. So I'll finish after this kind of European anecdote with an Indian perspective. So in terms of your experience, Raju, what can you advise, or how can you, what interesting anecdote or experience you have in terms of sustainability coming from your Indian experience, in particular towards creating sustainable networks?
So, like I said, India is scale and cost effective, and sustainability is a given. Otherwise, you won't be in the business, So, because it's a very competitive market. And to give an example, right? So when I took over the CP 15 years ago, and a network down to a bank, it's all right. But now, if you look at it now, a network down to a branch of a bank, I will get a call to wake up at 2 a.m. So it's become very, very important. A country like India, how much physical infrastructure you do, it's not going to be enough. It's all digital infrastructure. Because digital infrastructure is going to play a great role in a country like in India. Sustainability, it's a must, it's a given, and you will not survive without those facts. That's the way I look at it.
Excellent, thank you. So I see we are out of time. I wanted to give an opportunity to the audience to ask a question, but unfortunately we're out of time. So I personally think that this has been an absolutely fascinating panel. That there's a number of very interesting ideas that have come up, starting from the importance of actually continuing to build additional infrastructure, from alternative new routes to create diversity, to creating these in addition to the submarine cable routes, also some terrestrial routes, even though submarine cable routes still continue to be more cost effective. That's really been a very important part. And then there are some very crucial aspects in terms of the supply chain we talked about for marine operations, in terms of manufacturing, where there are specific issues that need to be addressed by the industry to continuing building these networks of the future. And then there's a bit of the higher layer of this automation and AI and softwareization, which are really important to meet the objectives of the clients from the broader ecosystem. So I'd like to thank all the panelists, and please join me in thanking them for this fascinating panel. Thank you very much.